Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Writer's Class in the Woman's Cave, of course. I mean, everything that happens. Just imagine that the And I Thought ladies had a campus, and then it was a cave, and then this is a lot of imagining.
This is a lot of detail. I feel like you're writing a book about it. I feel like that's what's happening right now.
Jade is currently off screen because we just figured out it's going to snow where we live. We have to go get groceries.
We will.
Dash.
We might want a snow shovel. We might want one of those. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Instead of waiting for the sun to melt it.
Yeah. So important things.
Okay. So I'm gonna just move on to we wrote books. Oh, I'm Winona.
Oh yes. And Jade is missing. So
Jade is on the side.
Woo! Social distance style. Yeah.
2 inches apart, apparently. Okay, moving on to the actual book thing. So we wrote books.
Literary life cat, poetry.
Go figure. We have And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, and I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, and If Only I Were Me, a memoir in verse. That is the audiobooks. And then if we must mention one more book for our top 4 of our 17, let's go with The Women's Cave and Other Pop Poems, A Misfit Guide. Because, well,
the only one we call a poetry anthology, because that's how it was #1 on Amazon.
Yeah, if it wasn't a bestseller, it would just be a book that we called a life guide, because they're much more fun to read than a poetry anthology. Most people who hear poetry anthology go, right.
They already sleep.
But you're not here to hear about me.
Wait, we got to tell them where they can find out more. You can find out more about us at www.andwethought.com or andithoughtLadies.com. All right.
This is why I need a Jade.
Absolutely.
Oh, righty now. So,
you're not here to hear about us.
You're not here to hear about us. You're here to hear about our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am Athena Dixon. I am a poet and an essayist from Northeast Ohio. I live in Philly. I am an extreme Black Panther fan and write fanfic, in addition to my regular books. And I am hopefully going to be getting a full sleeve tattoo sometime soon. Yeah, that's me.
Wow. That was a lot, and I enjoyed knowing.
I know all 3 of them.
Unfortunately, because of the movie that just came out, you said a Black Panther fan. That was like the 1960s movement. No, the movie. I don't know. It could be both.
I did write a novel set in 1969 among the Black Panther Party, which is where I finished this summer. So it is a little bit of a crossover between both. But I'm a loyal Jabari tribe member, all things in Baku. So yeah.
Oh, you're a for real fan of the Black Panther, the movie. Did you want to go ahead and do some promoting for the book that you wrote though?
Yes. So my first essay collection, The Incredible Shrinking Woman, was released by Split Lit Press in September of 2020. It's a collection of 19 essays that cover everything from my marriage to my divorce to depression and Skype sex and fan fiction and all stops in between. It's kind of a look at my life and trying to figure out who I am and how I shrank myself to fit into certain roles. And like I said, it's my first essay collection. I'm a poet. My first book was a chapbook of poetry titled No God in This Room. And so I was a little bit worried when the essay collection came out, but people have really taken to it. And I'm now currently working on a third collection, which will be another essay book.
I love this.
Because we write this.
I was like, because we write poetry, probably. So I have to ask you, what drew you to poetry?
I was like an only child for 12 years. And so I was always writing little stories and things. And I got into 7th or 8th grade. And I had a student teacher who taught us poetry 9 weeks. And she hyped me up like nobody's business. She was like, "You're like Emily Dickinson and you're so good." And I was like, "I don't know who that is, but you think I'm doing something good, so I'm going to keep doing it." And eventually it just became something that everybody knew me for doing. And when I got to undergrad, a friend introduced me to the open mic scene. And so I did open mics every week. I did a couple of slams, eventually got an MFA in poetry. And but it really was just a way to express myself. I was very, very shy. Doing open mics forced me to talk to people. And so it became something that I was very good at without much thought. It sounds bad to say that, but also without a lot of thought. And so I developed it.
Oh, so I wanted to know how did you get involved in the podcast of New Books and Poetry?
Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, my co-host and I have never met. She lives in California. I live in Philly. We knew each other just via poetry here and there. And that podcast has existed for a while, but it went dormant because the people who were hosting it kind of moved on to other things. And she was approached with the opportunity to run the podcast. And so she sent me a DM and was like, hey, do you want to be my co-host? We get to pick what books we want to talk about and who we want to interview. So I was like, sure. And because she thought that I would be a good way to have both of us show like a different version of poetry. So she does like a lot of Gothic poetry and kind of off the beaten path poetry. And obviously I'm always looking for poets of color who don't get the same shine. So we were figuring it was the best way to give other people a platform.
I just want to mention that I am a poet of color.
Really, Winona?
That's off the beaten path.
Winona.
Yeah. Please.
That was her narcissistic one.
That's my only narcissistic for the day.
That's it.
I'm done.
All right, so what is your regular writing routine? Because you said you have another book coming out this summer, which makes me happy.
Yes. I write where I can write. It gets in where it can fit in. I have a full-time regular federal job that I've been doing for 12 years. So I work a standard shift and then I write whenever I have a chance. Weekends, after work, on lunch break. I type stuff up on my work computer, email it to myself. But I will say that I do not write every day. I think sometimes that's a miss for writers, that sometimes it really is you have to input stuff. So whether it's me listening to music or watching movies or whatever it is, I try to do something creative every day, but I don't necessarily write every day. But my writing is like helter-skelter. It is where it can get. I dictate stuff on my phone through Microsoft Word and email it to myself. There's like stuff taped to my closet door back there, just notes for stuff. So it really is whenever I can do it, I do it.
So what prompted you to end the literary journal?
It was 9 years. And it was really my passion project, but it came to be that, fortunately for us, it wasn't a situation where we had a lack of submissions. Like our last run of submissions prior to our last issue was like, I want to say 300 and some odd submissions we had to go through. So it was just because everybody, for the most part, affiliated with the magazine were going on to just amazing things and their own like fellowships and books and other projects. And so it was really a launching pad for a lot of us. And I didn't think that we were having a change in the editor-in-chief. And I didn't think that it was best to have the magazine go out like in a bad way. So I figured we would go out when everybody was happy. We knew that we did what we came to do. We did 9 years of all Black women running a magazine very well. And we decided to let it go. It's going to remain up, but I don't know what the next iteration of it will be. But it was just time to go because a lot of us had a lot of good things on our plates and we wanted to make sure we were focusing on that as well.
So what is like the top 3 pieces of advice that you have for people out here that want to be an essayist or just a poet and they're feeling a little discouraged right now?
My number one piece of advice all the time is to write whatever you're writing like nobody's ever going to read it. Because I think if you start thinking of who's going to read it or where it's going to be published, you won't write what you really want to write. You're writing to what you think people will accept. And if you write something honest and true and with a good intention for yourself, it will find its home. And the second thing is to have a very clear vision of what success looks like to you. I had a conversation with a friend, and that conversation was like, do I want to be a famous writer or do I want to have a writer who has her own particular audience? And I don't want to be famous. I want to have a group of people who like my work and I can make a living off of writing. And the third one would be to write what you want to write. That especially as a writer of color, sometimes you're forced to write trauma or trade on trauma, or you have to be the voice of all Black people. If you want to write fan fiction, if you want to write romance, if you want to write sci-fi, write what you want to write. Don't write what you're expected to write, and don't include things that you don't want to include just so you can get a publication credit.
Oh,
that is some beautiful advice.
So where can people check out some of these wonderful books and fan fiction?
My fan fiction is on Tumblr and AO3 under the name Muse of Mbaku. And so I have a master list that has all of my Mbaku stories, my Killmonger stories. I've written Us movie fan fiction. I've written Spencer Confidential fan fiction. I've written fan fiction for Chicago PD because Kevin Atwater gets no love like he should. And then for my serious writing, you can find that on AthenaDixon.com. It has links to my work. It has an event calendar for when I do readings and things. It has appearances I may be doing. It's getting an overhaul right now, but all the relevant information is still there.
Wonderful. It has been a pleasure to have you on today. I still can't believe Athena Dixon, the poet, came on our show.
I am so excited.
Winona and Jay, the pop poets.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, so you can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com or the abbreviated version, Winona.
You can find at www.andithoughtLadies.com.
So just remember, y'all, wisdom is all around you.
You're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona
and Jade. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, thanks for listening.